I'm joined here today with my fellow co-host Crystal Santos and news contributor Sabrina Heisuk. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. It's Kaya's birthday.
Yay!
Happy
Happy birthday.
God.
Kaya is spending her birthday in the pandemic. Oh no. This would definitely be a memorable one, Kaya.
Kaya, you're turning 20, right?
Yes, I'm turning 20 and I don't know how I feel right now. I am not excited at all. I think I'm excited because today is a day of appreciation, but also I'm just getting older, so that's not so fun. But I'm not too old yet. I can't complain, and I do look 12, as my dad says.
Oh. Well,
So,
hey, you're not a teenager anymore, so that's a big step.
no, I am. I'm calling myself 20th as of now.
Yes.
I
My
decided.
bad. How did I not know that?
Yeah, I've decided I'm gonna be a teenager until I actually turn 21 or just end up moving out of the house. So as long as I'm in college, I'm a teenager. I'm a novice. It's cool.
All right,
I
that's
like
fair.
that mentality. Do you have any special plans for today, Kaya?
So I'm actually gonna visit my grandma today with my dad, and my aunt's like making food for me and stuff. So I'm excited to see my family. Just it's gonna be like the five of us with 3 chihuahuas. So it's gonna be cute. I'm excited.
Nice.
3 chihuahuas.
Yeah,
That's cool.
well, she's chilling on the couch. She's blending into the couch right now. You can't see her, but yeah. And
That's
they all
fun.
have their seats by the table too. Mind you, whenever someone leaves the table or if there's a seat, an empty seat, the dogs sit on the seats. They're trained that way.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
They're very
They're
civilized.
like people. Yeah.
But Kaya, tell us, besides it being your birthday, because of course, the most important event of today, what else are we celebrating today?
So we've got a wide range of holidays, including National Corn on the Cob Day, National German Chocolate Day, and National Making Life Beautiful Day. So get your corn on the cobs. If it's a bit partly cloudy right now, but if you have a grill, make some cob. And if you happen to have chocolate or a German chocolate cake just lying around in the freezer, go ahead and indulge in that and just appreciate your life and look back through your pictures, right? Go on your iPhone and just go through all the fun memories that you've had, because being in quarantine could be just very dull. And even as we're kind of moving into second stage and the stay-at-home orders are being lifted, just make sure that you are staying positive and you're just remaining hopeful, and don't steer towards just negative conclusions immediately. We don't know what's going to happen. Time will tell, but all you can do is just make the best out of everything.
And enjoy your corn on the cob and your good chocolate, especially on today.
And some historical moments that happened today. So Henry VIII, he actually wed his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, and because of the refusal of Pope Clement the Sixth, who actually was against their marriage, and that whole just union in that event created and started the English Reformation. So that was pretty interesting. Also, American politician Jeannette Rankin was the first woman to be the member of the U.S. Congress, and she was born on this day. So pretty awesome to share a birthday with Jeannette Rankin. Cool. And also in 1950, Ben Hagen actually recovered from a dramatic recovery from a near fatal automobile accident. And he was an American golfer, and he actually won the US Open on this day. So look, a good, heroic, start from the bottom to the top story. Love it. And also American actress and activist Ruby Dee, who is known for her work in African American theater and film and her outspoken civil rights activism, passed away on this day on the age of 91. She lived a very long life and very fulfilling. So a lot happened today, and I'm honored to share a day with so many historical moments.
Yeah, you should. I mean, you should feel honored, Kaya. There's so many powerful, women, Ruby Dee, Jeannette Rankin. There's so many strong woman figures. So
And you, Kaya, too. You're a powerful woman as well.
yes, I'm gonna forget Kaya.
We'll see in 5 years if you guys will see me on the local television news network. We'll see.
Hey, you never know.
Of course. But Sabrina, what is our latest newscast?
All right, guys. So in Richmond, Virginia, a statue of former President of the Confederate States, Jefferson Davis, was torn down by protesters, as well as a statue of Christopher Columbus was ripped down, set on fire, and thrown into a lake. Roughly 80 miles away in Portsmouth, 4 other statues that were part of a Confederate monument were beheaded and yanked down. The death of George Floyd has spurred Confederate eradication around the nation. A number of people state that the monuments inappropriately glorified individuals who advocated for slavery, while others say the removal amounts to deleting history. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, Chief Merida Arradondo told the public yesterday that the Minneapolis Police Department will be withdrawing from the police union contract negotiations, as well as he mentioned that they would be utilizing a new system that will identify problematic officers early and intervene. Chief Arradondo stated, start quote, "We will have a police department that our communities view as legitimate, trusting, and working with their best interests at heart," end quote. For local news, in Asbury Park, New Jersey, the Asbury Park Council has approved its restaurants to have limited indoor dining for the first time since the start of coronavirus lockdown, despite the Governor's Phil Murphy's latest executive order. Beginning on June 15th, restaurants will allow indoor dining at 25 of the building's capacity of 50 individuals. For weather, in Randolph, New Jersey, it is currently 70 degrees outside with a high of 80 and a low of 58, with a 20% chance of rain. And today we will have 100% of humidity, which we love, and a sunset at 8:30 p.m. And this concludes your news update for June 11th, 2020. And yeah, 100% of humidity, guys. So I'm not happy about this, but maybe it's not as bad over there.
I just blow dried my hair, Sabrina. I am not happy about that.
I'm sorry, Kaya. I know. Now you're going to have the birthday blues.
I know. Keeping bangs is really just, it's painful because the rest of your head might be completely fine, but because you have really tiny strands of hair on your forehead and very close to your T-zone, they get very oily very fast, and then you also get the mixture of sweat from the humidity. So you know what? Just gonna have to put it up. It's not the worst.
As someone who used to have bangs for like 10 years of my life, I completely know what you're going through. And I'm praying for you, bro. You're going to make it through. You're going to get through it.
Just don't go outside, Kaya. We'll just leave it at that.
That's true. Don't open the windows, so just stay inside all day.
Right. I'll make sure the air conditioning is blasting throughout the entire day. Gotcha. Thanks for the concern, ladies.
But thank you, Sabrina, for updating us on the most current and significant news stories. As we move on, protests continue to occur across the nation. George Floyd's younger brother, Philonise Floyd, testified yesterday before the House Judiciary Committee in a hearing discussing racial profiling and police brutality, as Democrats prepare to vote in the Justice in Policing Act. Philonise heartfeltly expressed his pain in losing his beloved brother and frustration in police brutality and injustice towards people of color. He calls on lawmakers and politicians to change police reform policies and end racial discrimination. Kaya?
Just one day after George Floyd's funeral service in Houston, Texas, Philonise Floyd demanded lawmakers inside Capitol Hill to, quote, stop the pain amongst Black citizens and not allow George Floyd's life to become, quote, another name in the tragic and increasing list of Black Americans killed by police officers. Philonise, torn by his brother's death, says Perry, his nickname given to his brother, is, quote, more than another face on a t-shirt, more than another name on a list that won't stop growing. Our country, this world, needs the right thing, end quote. Yesterday's hearing is the first congressional meeting on policing after George Floyd's murder by 4 former police officers in Minneapolis on May 25th. Over 2 weeks, protests emerged in all 50 US states, and the world followed, such as England, Spain, Brazil, Netherlands, Scotland, and many more. Millions chant, quote, no justice, no peace, and Black Lives Matter, end quote, fighting for a world where racial discrimination is condemned everywhere. Floyd was the first witness called to speak at the hearing, as House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler gavelled in a silenced room of lawmakers and witnesses wearing masks. He reflected on his brother's death, recalling that as his older brother begged for his life, he referred to the former police officers as sir. He proclaimed, quote, "I'm tired of pain you feel when you watch something like that, when your big brother, who you've looked up to your whole life, dies begging for your mom. George wasn't hurting anyone that day. He didn't deserve to die over $20. I'm asking you, is that what a Black man is worth, $20? This is 2020, end quote. Floyd continued to say that if his brother's death, quote, ends up changing the world for the better, and he thinks it will, then he died as he lived, end quote. Further on in the hearing, Floyd revealed that he believes former police officer Derek Chauvin killed his brother, quote, just because he didn't like him, end quote. Wiping his tears, Floyd said, quote, "It must be racism. It must have had something to do with racism. I wish I can get him back," end quote. On a side note, David Pinney, George Floyd's past coworker, recently revealed to CBS News that George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, quote, bumped heads while working in the same club as part-time security. Although Pinney wrote in an email to CBS News that he had mistaken George Floyd for another coworker, he did refer to Chauvin as, quote, an extremely aggressive within the club, end quote. Investigators are trying to find out whether the two men knew each other before the tragic event. Floyd's family believe that Chauvin's despicable aggression toward Floyd was partly personal and demand Chauvin to be charged with first-degree murder since they believe he knew George Floyd. As of now, Chauvin is charged with second-degree murder, and the 3 other former officers are charged with aiding and abetting murder. Additionally, the Justice Department is separately investigating whether George Floyd's civil rights were violated. Testimonies were also given by civil rights and law enforcement leaders. Angela Underwood Jacobs testified in the hearing per the Republican Party's request, and recently lost her brother, Dave Patrick Underwood, a Black officer who worked for the Federal Protective Service, to a shooting while he guarded the U.S. courthouse in Oakland, California. Jacobs explained that, quote, "How my brother died was wrong, a good man who wanted to help others. We will never solve generational systematic injustice with looting, burning, destruction of property, and killing in the name of justice. We must find lawful, peaceful solutions that uplift and benefit everyone," end quote. Jacobs also went on to say, quote, "My brother wore a uniform, and he wore that uniform proudly. Where is the outrage for a fallen officer who also happens to be an African American," end quote. Further on, Republican lawmakers spoke against defunding police departments nationwide in the hearing, as numerous cities considered drastically reducing funding for law enforcement. Representative Matt Gaetz also asked for a show of hands who support the notion of defunding the police from the panel, and no one did. Democratic representatives in the committee continued to introduce their reform proposals. Representative Karen Bass said, quote, "George Floyd, who would be alive today if law prohibited the police use of chokeholds and restraining civilians," end quote. Another proposal introduced the idea of creating a database of police officers who have had warnings or suspensions to prevent them from being rehired in other police departments, end quote. Floyd's family attorney, Ben Crump, assured the panel that, quote, "It's become painfully obvious we have 2 systems of justice, one for white Americans and one for Black Americans," end quote. And with no reform or changes in policies, he urged that, quote, "It's going to happen again, and I predict that it's going to happen in the next 30 days, end quote. Information from this story has been cited from NPR, CNN, and AP News.
Wow, Kaya, I wasn't aware of that there were speculations that they knew each other. The more you know.
Yeah, it was actually very recently, David Pinney, he spoke to CBS News in an interview where he disclosed that, but it seems that he actually mistaken George Floyd for another coworker in terms of their interaction with David Chauvin. But it's also very, very interesting to see that a person that was in the inside of the club actually witnessed and experienced Chauvin's aggressive behavior towards a lot of people.
Right. Mm-hmm. I guess it shows a pattern, some would say, right?
Yeah, there were like signs beforehand, and it's like, if things could have been different.
Absolutely. And hopefully this could this evidence and just as we find out more about from investigators between whether Chauvin and George actually knew each other. That hopefully Floyd's family's wishes will be actually gone through, and hopefully Chauvin will be charged with first-degree murder. But as of now, we are still following information, and we will make sure to report everything on the investigation here on WMSE.
Right, and just speaking a bit more on the topic of defunding the police, Kaya, what do you think about that?
I mean, there's a lot of proponents of defunding police in terms of policies in America because of the long history of disproportionate harm to communities of color. But I feel like this is a question that I can't necessarily answer because I am not, I'm really not too much educated on law enforcement and the police's policies. So I can't necessarily answer that question, Crystal, but I trust that the lawmakers and the hearing that happened just yesterday, that hopefully our Democrats and Republicans will come together and just change and enforce police reform.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I completely understand, Kaya, but I asked you because, you know, according to US Today, and the question is regarding why defund the police, you know, the claim is proponents of defunding police say policing in America has a long history of disproportionate harm to communities of color. And then, so then the other claim is like, why not change police? And it's basically just many detractors of the defund police movement have asked whether police departments can be reformed without lessening their funding. The conversation is out there, and Republicans are using this to say that this is why America shouldn't vote Democrats. And it's like today I cannot speak, Kaya. But then Democrats turn around and say that this use of force is extreme and they need to learn to deal with societal issues.
And you're completely right. There is just this, and even in the story that we were just talking about, including and kind of really talking about the hearing that just happened in the Capitol Hill, that you see that representatives are really trying to push towards just not defunding the police and more towards maybe adjusting and modifying and changing completely the just policies, and not necessarily adjusting the budget towards other causes. And I think when I was actually reading this article and just doing research, there was this mayor that was really speaking on this topic, and he was saying that a lot of the funding that goes towards police departments is obviously tax money, and the very same money is also providing opportunities for very young children. And his statement and his opinion was like, do we want to redirect this funding that is helping many young children? So, and then you also have the Democrats that are saying that there's extreme force being used by law enforcement, and that needs to completely be just dismantled and just eradicated. And they're trying to find ways, like ways in just introducing police reform, like introducing that whole database of just tracking all of the police officers that have strikes in the past and not rehiring them. So seeing that there's a big divide between the parties, it's kind of concerning to see that. Now is the time to unite. Now is the time to take both sides of the argument and mash them together to make the best outcome. And the justice and the peace that everyone deserves in this nation.
Very well said, Kaya.
Yeah, and you know, between like Republicans and Democrats, I actually, you know, our station manager Annabella, she said this earlier, and I agree that I feel like the answer is, you know, in the middle. More training for police, banning of the chokeholds, just a real look into the history of the story of this country without the whitewashing that has traditionally happened, and the rewriting of events that glorifies a white culture. Some of these issues here are the fact that, unlike Europe, our residents do not have a blood tie to the land we are in. So yeah, there's just so much to talk about, so many issues. We have to extensively, because they do tend to say that history tends to repeat itself. So
Even though Europeans and people from all different continents, right? They necessarily didn't firsthand experience just the police brutality in the United States and racial discrimination. It's still really just powerful to see that they've been listening and they've heard, and that they're willing to speak up, and out of support and just appreciation towards the Black community. Even though they didn't see it firsthand, they understand that equality is fundamental and is priority for everyone, right? It's just a given. And it's really to see all these countries, a lot of countries, even in Poland, like people were leaving just candles to commemorate George Floyd, and just posters in front of the US Embassy. And seeing that really made me proud to see that people, a country where my ancestors came from, they understand, and they support equality. So it's definitely just a solidarity movement right now. And it's really to everyone come together even during a pandemic.
It's beautiful. And the fact is that there's probably a lot of inequality going around in other countries too. And maybe this is bringing awareness to those other situations that maybe have not have had enough awareness, as like the George Floyd case. But it's really good that this is unifying us as a world even more. Between the pandemic and this, I really feel like we're coming together, which is a big plus out of all of this.
yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, Sabrina, because I yesterday I was on Twitter and I was just catching up on my feed, and it was basically you said how we're all coming together and we're all like seeing how America and people are protesting that they're done with all the um you know police brutality against minorities. It's funny that you mentioned that because in Mexico they're actually protesting and rioting as well. There was this video going viral where they set a police officer on fire. It was very extreme, but I feel like everybody is waking up and ultimately fighting for what's right.
And Crystal, Sabrina, this is a long conversation, and although we don't have the answers right now, there are issues that need to be addressed by our representatives. Staying on the topic of U.S. news, Governor Phil Murphy lifted stay-at-home orders after placing such orders on March 21st, and New Jersey is nearing its implementation of the second stage of the reopening plan, with outdoor dining and non-essential retail companies opening for business. While this may seem like good news for New Jerseyans, other parts of the country are experiencing spikes in COVID-19 cases. More on this story, Crystal.
As the number of new coronavirus cases continues to increase worldwide, hospitalizations in at least 9 states are in the rise. In states such as Texas, North and South Carolina, Oregon, Arkansas, Mississippi, Utah, and Arizona have an increasing number of patients under supervised care since Memorial Weekend because of COVID-19 infections. According to the Washington Post, the U.S. has reported nearly 2 million cases and more than 7 million worldwide cases. And this happened. They've seen an increase and a pattern right after Memorial Day weekend, right? I just can't. Oh, I can't steer away from the thought of what's going to happen after these protests continue to occur.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
And it's important to note that these are states that reopened, right? So they're kind of more forward in terms of just kind of going back to normal and just ending stay-at-home orders and people kind of just going back to their routines. And the fact that cases are spiking in those states does concern me. It does concern me because we are thinking that we have everything under control. We're thinking that we're at a time now where we could actually reopen and go back to normal, despite the fact that we are expecting, or this is a possibility that we are expecting a second wave near the fall season. or flu season more as, and just seeing that, even just the virus wave and just the fact that over 2 million Americans now have contracted the virus, and the number is rising, whether we like it or not, right? The cases are rising, and whether some states the rise of cases is actually slowing, it's still rising, right? The number is still going up, whether it's the trend, not the trend, but the wave is decreasing. So
Yeah, I must say, go ahead, Sabrina.
I was just gonna say that it really depends on how seriously each individual state takes this, because we have the potential to keep this under control for now. If you follow the 6 feet apart rule and you wear your mask and the people around you are wearing a mask, you are so much more safer than if you're not taking these rules seriously. So I feel like it's up to the people, depending on how they want to follow these rules or not. And it's up to them to have this virus under control or not.
Yeah, ultimately, your responsibility.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, just the other day, was it yesterday, the day before yesterday, when I heard about the stay-at-home order being lifted, it kind of caught me off guard. To be honest, I thought we were still, like, you have to be super precautious, take, extreme measures if you can. So it definitely caught me off guard, but I personally, I'm still, being extra precautious and just trying to keep myself safe. And then there's this article on Bloomberg.com, which is basically second U.S. virus wave emerges as cases top 2 million. Some facts to point out about this article is that Texas on Wednesday reported 2,504 new coronavirus cases, the highest one-day total since the pandemic emerged. Now, this next fact really has me, nervous, because now I don't want to go outside. But it says a month into its reopening, Florida this week reported 8,553 new cases, the most of any 7-day period. That is a big number.
And this is not new information, Crystal. This is health experts have actually publicly specified, hey, when we reopen, there might be a spike in cases again.
Right.
Because the fact that people are just kind of starting to mingle again, and people are just starting to go outside. And I mean, I guess I'm kind of just thinking of if I were like in a situation where I was like in Arizona, or if I was in Texas right now, I could possibly be just kind of caught up in the fact that, yes, everything is back to normal, and I might go to college soon, and all is well, and I can go to McDonald's and like go inside and have outdoor dining and stuff. And I guess like you might get caught up in that just excitement, right? And that thrill, and just being like grateful that everything is back to normal, and kind of just steer away from, hey, make sure you're wearing your mask, and make sure you're staying 6 feet apart, right? These are things that might get lost in the transition in the reopening plans in New Jersey as well. So as I said before, it is everyone's responsibility to make sure that they're fully gloved, masked, they're keeping their social distance, and they're making sure that they're sanitizing themselves when they come home. Because whether we are reopening or not, we are still in a pandemic. Cases are still rising, whether we like it or not. And it's just a given.
I absolutely agree with you, Kaya. And, this may be a bit naive of me, but honestly, when I heard that the stay-at-home order was lifted, I don't know why I thought I guess I want to believe that it's just kind of going to go away. When realistically, as you said, experts have said that there is going to be, a high possibility of there being a second wave, and the number of cases is going to keep on going up. But I don't know.
I know, Crystal.
Yeah.
I see Sabrina also. They're just kind of like shaking their heads a little bit, trying to really take in the news right now. It's scary. It is scary, and it's a bit frustrating because we've been in quarantine for just a couple of months now, and we don't really know what's happening, right? That just being unsure is really daunting. So I completely understand, girls. We're in it together, and there's so many of us also in it together.
Yeah.
And also, just another fun, like just another just fact that we read over is that experts see evidence of a second wave building in Arizona, Texas, Florida, and California. Arizona, quote, sticks out like a sore thumb in terms of a major problem, end quote, said Jeffrey Morris, director of the Division of Biostatistics at University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine. So there might be that possibility of a second wave coming sooner than we expected.
I mean, for me personally, I was trying to say this before, but I feel like this pandemic or this being precautious won't be over for me personally, at least until we find a vaccine or some type of medicine, because that's when we know that we're actually safe and that there's almost a close to very low chance of ever getting this virus. And yeah, no, that's crazy about the I know the second wave is definitely going to come, but the fact that it's going to come so early too, that's definitely scary. I was watching the news last night and they said that, well, there was a scientist or no, a doctor that came on and he said by September he's very not 100% sure, but very pretty positive that by September we will have reached more than 200,000 deaths in the United States. And then he like did the calculations and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And this whole phase 2 coming early for those states solidifies that even farther. It's a terrifying thought.
And just to reiterate, we're coming very close. We're nearing the second stage of our reopening plan, which is happening on June 15th. And here we just have like just some statistics and data on terms of how New Jersey is doing and just the number of cases. So you can see that Bergen County, as of right now, 1,667 positive test results and 1,635 deaths. And near Passaic County, where our university is located, you see that there's 18,206 positive test results and 1,723 deaths. And in total tests in the nation, you see that 1,008,934 tests were reported. And you can also see that if you look at the map, in terms of circles, right? The bigger the circle, the closer to New York. So we're seeing a lot of cases are just emerging in Bergen County, near Edison, very close to New York, which makes a lot of sense considering that New York is and was a hotspot. And then if you look at the new cases over time, you do see just a spike, obviously March, April, and then as it comes down towards May, it gradually kind of comes down. But if you look at the very last bar, which is, I believe, maybe last week, there is that slight increase again. You kind of see like that little loop. So as of now, information is still being reported, tests are still being taken, time will tell, but there might be a possibility. It might go both ways. So,
you know, it's very interesting based on the statistics you just had up on the screen. Even though Bergen County has the most cases, the county that's in third place, Essex County, has the most deaths, which is kind of interesting. Just wanted to point that out.
And that's actually really that's really interesting that you actually caught that. I mean, statistics and data tell, right?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because like depending on where you are and how many elderly people or more people are at risk definitely has a big effect on the amount of deaths in your county.
And more on COVID-19 news as you just stay in touch with Morning Buzz editions. And moving on to our next story. So if you have been a cultured person, unlike myself, and have been recently, you obviously know about the J.K. Rowling controversy happening right now. And we did bring you this story on Tuesday, but we have an update for you guys. J.K. Rowling has posted a response to the massive reaction to exclusionary comments on trans women. Now, Eddie Redmayne, guys, help me out. You don't know?
Redmayne?
Okay.
Redmayne.
I don't know.
Redmayne.
Redmayne?
Redmayne lead a Fantastic Beasts series. Fantastic Beasts series, I said that correctly, okay. And Emma Watson, who you know as Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter series, have actually spoken on this matter. Rowling shocked and outraged many with this initial post reading opinion, quote, opinion, creating a more equal post-COVID-19 world for people who menstruate. I'm sure there used to be a word for those people. Someone help me out. Woobin, Wimpund, Woomud. End quote. In another tweet, she followed up with her transphobic comments by saying, quote, if sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives, end quote. Eddie issued a statement exclusively via Variety magazine yesterday, also criticizing the writer's position. He wrote, quote, as someone who has worked with J.K. Rowling and members of the trans community, I wanted to make it absolutely clear where I stand. I disagree with Joe's comments. Trans women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary identities are valid. I would never want to speak on behalf of the community, but I do know that my dear transgender friends and colleagues are tired of this constant questioning of their identities, which all too often results in violence and abuse. They simply want to live their lives peacefully, and it's time to let them do so, end quote. Emma Watson tweeted yesterday, quote, trans people are who they say they are and deserve to live their lives without being constantly questioned or told they aren't who they say they are. End quote. In response to the disgust and shock expressed by both Harry Potter fans and non-Harry Potter fans, Rowling released a 3,800-word essay on her personal website, with solely focusing on her being a sexual assault survivor, which is the very first time she opened up about her trauma. Her essay reads, quote, I've been in the public eye for over 20 years, and I've never talked publicly about being a domestic abuse and sexual assault survivor. This isn't because I'm ashamed those things happened to me, but because they're traumatic to revisit and remember. I also feel protective of my daughter from my first marriage. I'm mentioning these things now in an attempt to garner, not in an attempt to garner sympathy, but out of solidarity with the huge numbers of women who have histories like mine, who have been slurred as bigots for having concerns around single-sex spaces. She continued to write, quote, I managed to escape my first violent marriage with some difficulty, but now I'm married to a truly good and principled man, safe and secure in ways I've never in a million years expected to be. However, the scars left by violence and sexual assault don't disappear. No matter how loved you are, and no matter how much money you've made, my prenatal jumpiness is a family joke, and even I know it's funny, but I pray my daughters never have the same reasons I do for hating sudden loud noises or finding people behind me when I haven't heard them approaching. If you can come inside my head and understand what I feel when I read about a trans woman dying at the hands of a violent man, you find solidarity and kinship. I have a sense of terror in which those trans women will spend their last seconds on earth, because I too have known those moments of blind fear, when I realized that the only thing keeping me alive was the shaky self-restraint of my attacker, end quote. She then directly addressed her stance in supporting the LGBTQ plus community, saying, quote, I stand alongside the brave women and men, gay, straight, and trans, who are standing up for freedom of speech and thought, and for the rights and safety of some of the most vulnerable in our society, young gay kids, fragile teenagers, and women who are reliant on and wish to retain their single-sex spaces. I've read all the arguments about femaleness not residing in the sexed body and the assertions that biological women don't have common experiences, and I find them too deeply misogynistic and regressive. Women are told they must accept and admit that there is no material difference between trans women and themselves, but as many women have said before me, woman is not a costume, end quote. Despite her attempt to make peace and do good, she ended her essay with saying that she does not expect to gain sympathy from others and has empathy for all women. She received just exactly that, not too much sympathy. Here's an overlook at some of the tweets tweeted out by users. Twitter also clapped back with users calling her once again after she posted the essay. User Serena Dineri, quote, said, In all seriousness, though, J.K. Rowling is the worst kind of transphobe because she somehow has convinced herself that she has love and compassion for trans people while simultaneously denying our humanity and relentlessly attacking us. She should just admit she hates trans people. End quote. Emily van der Werf tweeted, quote, J.K. Rowling essay is dangerous, hogwash that will only hurt trans people and reinforce a gender binary that oppresses women, but go off, I guess, end quote. So we're seeing a lot of just responses, even to her first initial post and her apology in an essay. I mean, we're all a group of females here, right? We have that female dynamic power. So as females, right, as women, how are you reacting to just J.K. Rowling's just kind of separating women from trans women and kind of dividing them, and then posting an entire essay kind of talking about her sexual assault experience and expressing her sympathies and empathy to all women and the LGBTQ plus community? What are your initial reactions to this story?
My initial reaction to this is J.K. Rowling. I always call it Rowling. Is it Rowling or is it Rowling? You said Rowling.
It's probably Rowling, but I've
been
Rowling?
Okay.
The entire time because I can't read.
But she initially started as a children's book writer. And I feel like for her to come out and say these things, especially to her main audience, which is probably like kids, teenagers, and young adults. I mean, even some real adults too, but that's not a good thing. That's dangerous, and it's really not setting a good example as an adult figure.
And Harry Potter is such a humongous franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Billions of children, billions of children have grown up reading Harry Potter books and just reliving the experiences through the movies and really just kind of escaping their reality and escaping their hardships by diving into this world of Harry Potter and this beautiful magic. And then you have this author that just starts saying these extremely just offensive comments. And I could never imagine what Harry Potter fans that are part of the LGBTQ plus community, what they're going through, what they're feeling, knowing that one of their most favorite authors throughout their entire childhood, the person that
someone who they looked up to, yeah. I just wanted to add that in. You're good.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm going to be honest, and please don't judge me, but I am not like a fan of Harry Potter, and not because I don't like their material, but just because I never got into it. But if I were to put myself in a position where, growing up, one of the authors that I really looked up to and I just loved the work, and for them to, let's say I was part of the LGBTQ plus community, then I'll feel, betrayed. And I feel like, man, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I would feel betrayed that someone that I look up to doesn't stand with me, doesn't stand for who I am. Personally, I feel like I'm such a you do whatever your little heart desires, whatever it is. Not that I don't care. Sometimes I don't care sounds a bit rough, but you do whatever your little heart desires. You can do whatever you like. I am happy for you if you're happy. You know what I mean?
And that's what you would think she would be saying. Supporting everyone and telling everyone to love themselves no matter what they love or what they like or what they don't like. And yeah.
To be completely honest, also Crystal and Sabrina, to be honest, we can't go inside J.K. Rowling's head. We don't necessarily know what her true opinion thoughts are on trans women. But I don't know, it just seems like she kind of posted this tweet and was trying to stand up for women and just wanted to talk about how women have been oppressed in just around the world. And she just wanted to kind of just because of her experiences with sexual assault and probably other hardships that she's dealt with as a female, she might have just wanted to just kind of just talk about it on Twitter and maybe reach out to people and kind of gained support from Twitter users on that, on that hardship. But the second part of her tweet was just uncalled for and just unnecessary whatsoever. And the fact that she kind of dove in and said menstrual, I feel like that was a key word. Menstrual, it doesn't matter if you're menstruating or not. If you identify yourself as a female, you are a female. And you're experiencing the hardships and the stereotypes of being a female. So we should all be coming together, right? No matter whether we became female biologically or not, I don't care. No one, like, it's not an issue.
It's like, this is 2020. She
2020.
should know this, you know?
We are in Pride Month.
Yeah, especially in Pride Month of all months to say this too.
Yeah, honestly, it's not even ironic to me. But also a very interesting observation too, that has been the subject of many scholarly articles. One of these is the Literal and Metaphorical Racial Themes in Harry Potter by Kayhan Najad, in which they write, quote, "In a typical Eurocentric fashion, these assignments range from white equals good to black equals evil. Albus Dumbledore, the most powerful good wizard, has a surname literally meaning white. His evil counterpart, Lord Voldemort, is referred to as the Dark Lord, and his followers conjure the dark mark to alert others to the presence of evil." And we can sit here all day talking about Harry Potter themes, but we must move on with our other stories. But J.K. Rowling, honestly, God bless your soul. I'm disappointed.
And you know what else is going to be disappointing, Kaya? Which may not actually be.
That was a slick transition, girl.
It was
surprising.
Oh wait.
But yeah, do you know who else is gonna be disappointing? Starbucks customers, and you may be asking why? Because it's closing down. But don't worry. Not all locations, just 400 of their stores, both in the U.S. and in Canada. And
no biggie.
Just 400. But don't worry, you can still get your morning coffee, which, in my humble opinion, is a bit overpriced. But according to CNN, the company plans to close the 400 stores in the next 18 months. At the same time, they are going to be opening more carry-out and pickup only locations. For these specialized pickups and carry-out only locations, they plan to open 300 of them. Their retail strategy is, quote, designed to enhance the customer experience, expand our retail presence, and enable profitable growth for the future. The company said that it was re-evaluating how it sells coffee prior to COVID-19 pandemic, due to the fact that customers in major cities were already showing a greater tendency to order coffee on the go. In an email sent to CNN Business, Starbucks said that about 80% of transactions are nearly 15,000 US stores are on-the-go purchases. I am one myself who orders a lot of to-go. Maybe not from Starbucks because she is pricey.
Oh,
She is pricey. That's why I'm more of a Dunkin' fan personally, but Starbucks has its pros.
It's actually really interesting you say that, Sabrina, because I feel like a lot of Dunkin' fans would, if Starbucks dropped their prices to match Dunkin', I feel like you would see a lot of fake Dunkin' fans move to Starbucks and just be loyal to Starbucks.
You know, but like for coffee wise, I feel like the Starbucks coffee is so strong, and I like more of a lighter coffee, and Dunkin' has lighter coffee, so that's my reasoning for liking it. So nice try, Kaya, but I stand by Dunkin'.
I will say this though, the Starbucks does have some very few, very selective items that are, makes sense. The price makes sense to me, at least personally. It makes sense to me. Again, we're college students, we are on a budget 24/7, but I do have to say, I absolutely love the refreshers. Those are priced adequately and they taste amazing. I just gotta put that out there.
I'm laughing here because Annabella, our general manager, who's actually producing our show right this minute, she thinks that Dunkin' coffee is dirty umbrella water. Cast.
Boo.
I'm just laughing on that.
Annabella,
But
what?
Annabella, I'm speaking directly to you. If you think it's if it is dirty umbrella water, if you drink it on its own, cover it up with milk, half and half, and lots of sugar and lots,
Sugar?
because
Even like a pump of caramel too.
Dunkin' coffee too, with lots of syrup and lots of milk. And I know you're probably grossed out right now, and it's not real coffee, but you know what? Our campus used to have $2 deals from like 2 to 6, and I thrived on that. I would walk into student management teams with a cup of Dunkin' coffee because that was just my go-to. That was my source of oxygen for the day.
It's funny that Annabella just told us that she hates sweet coffee, and I have to stand with her. I do not like sweet coffee. I like my coffee as dark and bitter as possible because sometimes I do drink coffee for the taste, but the majority of time when I'm drinking it is to stay for the caffeine and just to stay up and stay pumped and stay active.
See, bitter coffee just makes me overall bitter. So like that's why I need some sugar to get some nice sweetness in my attitude going, but that's just me.
And speaking on the topic of sweetness and good news, and we can only just we can't like not just like sit and lounge in the pandemic. And as like we're rethinking whenever we find a vaccine and people begin to return to stores, whether to use Wi-Fi and drink coffee, right? It's going to be interesting. I feel like everyone's not going to be moving on to homemade anymore. Everyone's going to be rushing to like get those Starbucks, Dunkin', whatever there is. Personally, I think what is that? What is that like? Real? Is it Nespresso? Like that really just like those
Strong.
little, yeah, they're called Nespresso.
Hmm.
Honestly, going to an espresso cafe is a dream. That's probably the best coffee ever, but probably even 10 times more expensive than Starbucks is. But staying on the topic of sweetness, we've got this really cute baby deer story for everyone. And we also have, yeah, how sweet is that? So apparently, in Australia, there was this drone footage. Oh, ooh, my bad. That's about the turtle story coming up. There are actually these heroes, right? These animal saving heroes who actually use CPR to save the life of a baby deer they found drifting in a lake in Texas last week. Brian Ballard and his wife Liz were just boating, lounging, and they saw something floating in the water. They thought it was a dead fish initially, but they actually saw that it was a little baby fawn. It was a baby Bambi. And they stopped their boat and they just started doing CPR on the deer. And I mean, you can see that as time progresses and they continue CPR, the deer actually like starts to wobble a little bit and like actually is brought back to life. So that's really sweet for people to actually set aside their days and help animals that are in need, that are more vulnerable than us. And hopefully that baby deer will just live on to live a very happy and fulfillful life because it's so cute.
Kaya, you make me laugh. But this
Oh,
video is
see, it's alive. Oh, what a beautiful moment. Yay.
this video is definitely a must watch. It's so cute. And honestly, I'm happy they were able to save him. Personally, if I were to be in that position, I don't think I would be able to. I'd just be scared, because I don't you
Because even when you learn CPR, doing it on a deer, like their chest is so much smaller than a human's. So like,
I wouldn't even know where to like, touch them. Like
Yeah. I think maybe because they have their lungs are smaller and their chest is just like smaller and just softer. I think you'd probably do CPR as if you were doing it on an infant with the 2 fingers instead of like pressing down with all your hands. So I mean, I think that's what you would necessarily do. But to be honest, I actually took a CPR class back in high school
me
and
too.
I don't remember anything. And I actually have a license for CPR. And if someone
But Kai, because I had the same license in high school, but actually after 2 years it expires.
oh,
So
so probably
you might not be certified.
I think I just lost. I think I not lost. My license retired just probably last month. But It's actually funny because I actually paid the $5 for the card and I never got it, but apparently my name was registered in the system. So I guess, I mean, I think if you don't have the card on you anyway, I mean, it's best to have the card on you just to identify that you are certified. But yeah, I mean, in a really stressful situation like that, where you see someone unconscious or just even an animal unconscious, like you must be going through just so much shock, right? And shock and just like, just all this adrenaline's feeling and you're just trying to like help out this, and you're just in a state of panic and you're just trying to help out this person or this animal, and being able to kind of overcome that and just be like, calm yourself and be like, okay, don't worry about what you're feeling, worry about saving what's in front of you, right? So whether it's an animal or not, animals are definitely very vulnerable in this world. And if you see an animal that needs help, whether it's on the side of the road or just, be a good civilian and just like help out the animal because you'd want to be saved too. Just saying. Speaking, I'm just like a modern day hippie, so I mean, I gotta go in there and just, free.
But and before Sabrina takes us over to our next animal story, I just wanted to point out that so this story we got off of goodnewsnetwork.org, and I'm trying to watch the video, right? And this little pop-up keeps showing up that says, do you want to allow Facebook.com to use cookies and website data while browsing? This will allow Facebook.com to track your activity, which I'm obviously trying to be like, don't allow. And as soon as I do, it pauses my video. So I'm upset, but let's move on. Sabrina, tell us about our next story.
So speaking of cute, happy animal stories, in Australia, there was drone footage that captured 64,000 green turtles coming ashore in far north Queensland to lay eggs. The green sea turtles were swimming ashore on Rain Island, which is the world's largest green sea turtle rookery. Green sea turtles, which must come to the surface to breathe, are a vulnerable species in Queensland because they are hunted for their flesh and eggs and are often caught in trawler nets and choke on plastic bags. Aww. Researchers use the drone footage as a new way of conducting population surveys of the turtles as part of the Rain Island Recovery Project. Dr. Dunstan stated, start quote, "We're finding 1.73 times as many turtles with the drone and as we do when we directly compare with observer counts," end quote. So that's amazing how many turtles they're able to find with the drone. Definitely technology being used for a great purpose here.
I'm crying right now. Like I feel like my heart just melting right now.
What a happy animal day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Look at all those little baby turtles.
Kaya, you're such an animal person. I love it.
I know I am.
Turtles are like the only reptiles that I actually like, because like crocodiles, snakes, like nope.
Stop, you can't tell me that because I had a pet iguana. I named her after myself. Her name was
Okay, like iguanas are okay, but like turtles are so cute. Like they're so innocent and like just harmless, except for the snapping ones.
That actually reminds me, just like another really it's a really sweet story. I remember this happening to myself when I actually had my iguana, and she passed away a year after I got her, and that was such a heartbreak. I still keep like her little, like a postcard that I received from the vet, like on the place that her cage lied. So I'm always remembered of her and her spirit. But I remember one time, because I honestly, when I saw Stephanie in the cage, I would kind of just be like really like I would be upset. I'd be like, why is this animal in the cage all the time? So I'd kind of let her out and just like let her kind of just explore in my bed and stuff like that. And one time she actually got under like a windowsill and just like under like just the blinds, and I couldn't find her, and I was looking for her, and actually 2 days passed and I still couldn't find her. And then one day my mom actually found the iguana and found Stephanie like wrapped up in a blanket. I was trying to keep like the winter cold air from coming into my room. And when I found her, she was lying unconscious and she was extremely cold because iguanas are cold-blooded animals. They need heat. So I remember just being really distraught, and I thought that I was the cause of my iguana like just ending her life. And I actually kept her in my palms of my hands for 2 hours. And I was like literally breathing hot air on her, and I was crying and stuff. And then finally, after 2 hours, I saw her eyes open up and she was conscious again. and I didn't give up on her. I wanted her to be alive, and she actually ended up spending a lot more meaningful months with me afterwards. So it's if you have a good spirit, right? If you have a good spirit and your intention is pure and you want to help animals, and if you do so, it's one of the most rewarding feelings ever. And yeah, just be more kind to animals, guys. That's a learning lesson for today.
Absolutely. But Kaya, we wish you a wonderful day ahead. Enjoy your day. Happy birthday once again. And for everyone who tuned in tomorrow, that tune in right now, tune in tomorrow for the best of the week on the Morning Buzz. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
To you, happy birthday to you.
Yay. Oh, that was so sweet. Thank you.